so hard to get ahead. When businesses make less profit than planned, it also means government gets less money in tax than expected. That's the big challenge for the nation in this budget, and it defines the decisions the government's confronting as we put the budget together. Once again, to break this complex picture down into a personal story, imagine a wage earner, John, employed in the same job throughout the last 20 years. For a period in 2003 to 2007, every year his employer gave him a sizable bonus. He was grateful, but in his bones he knew it wouldn't last. The bonuses did stop, and John was told that his income would rise by around 5% each year over the years to come. That's the basis for his financial plans. Now, very late, John has been told he won't get those promised increases for the next few years, but his income will get back up after that to where he was promised it would be. What is John's rational reaction? To respond to this temporary loss of income by selling his home and car, dropping his private health insurance, replacing every second evening meal with 2-minute noodles? Well, of course not. A rational response would be to make some responsible savings, to engage in some moderate borrowing, to get through to the time of higher income with his family and lifestyle intact, and then to use the higher income to pay off the extra borrowing undertaken in the lean years. Running a nation is always more complex than running a family budget, and analogies only work so far. But I trust the nature of the challenge we confront is now clearer, understood within the framework of the purpose of our fiscal policy and the detail of our medium-term fiscal strategy. And I trust that all would acknowledge the government has some serious decisions to make and to announce in the coming 2 weeks. As we make those decisions, let me be crystal clear about what we will and won't do. We won't, during this time of reduced revenue, fail the future by not making the wise investments that will make us a stronger and smarter nation. Better school funding and school improvement will not be jeopardised. Our nation cannot afford to leave children behind or to leave our nation's future economy limping behind the pack, unable to attract the high-wage, high-skilled jobs of the future. To return to John, you would not expect him to stop funding his son's top-quality schooling or his daughter's university studies. He would know that to do so would be to condemn his family to a poorer future. And we won't fail to make the wise investments that make us a fairer nation. Disability care must not be jeopardised. A fragmented, unfair, inefficient system hurting 400,000 Australians with disability and their families and their carers, and putting at risk anyone who could acquire a disability, cannot be left in place. Once again, we wouldn't expect John to deal with his temporary loss of income by failing to properly support the care of his wife, who has a profound disability. What is more, these necessary investments are affordable if we make smart decisions. So the way we proceed with these investments is to fund new structural spending with new structural savings. But because we are now confronted with new facts and far more significant reductions in tax money than was expected, we are going through the process now of making decisions to spend less in some areas than we had hoped, to raise more in revenue in some areas than we had planned. Guiding us as we make these decisions is the key principle of burden sharing. Because I lead a Labor government, I lead a government which understands that the whole of society benefits from the services government provides. In turn, we believe that the whole of society should carry a fair share of the burden of funding government, that the whole of society shares the burden of these savings decisions. The more who share the work, the lighter the load for all. Businesses, families, institutions, Everyone benefits, so everyone contributes, in the national interest for the common good. Now, there are no easy choices. Of course, as a Labor Prime Minister, I find these decisions both urgent and grave. This revenue discussion is not historical, it's very contemporary. There is new news here compared to 6 months ago, and new news here compared even to 3 months ago. Therefore, I have expressly determined we need to have every reasonable option on the table to meet the needs of the times, even options previously taken off the table. The nation and the government must have maximum flexibility to deal with these complex and rapidly changing events. That's my approach. In the budget, the government will do the right thing by the nation, the right thing for the long term. We will save responsibly, even when that means spending less on things which are important and valuable. We will invest wisely for the future. No one will be singled out. The burden of our decisions will be shared across the whole Australian community. We will not cut to the bone. That is the government's approach, and it is a bright dividing line in Australian politics today. I began by saying that this budget will be about a challenge and about a plan. It will also be about a choice. Our opponents and their friends crudely flaunt the bitter language of the cutthroat and the brandished axe. We govern for all Australians. We govern to strengthen the economy and to spread the benefits to all. Those values illuminate modern Labor every day we govern. I thank you for the opportunity to discuss them with you today. Thank you very much.
Prime Minister, thank you very much. We now have the opportunity for questions and answers from the floor. So put your hand up and we'll come to you in turn. Are there questions? I'll start with one while we're waiting, and it's really on those automatic stabilisers that you highlighted at the start of the speech, and to how will they function given the revised estimates for revenue in the economy and on the way down and on the way up?
Oh, well, we expect the automatic stabilisers to perform their traditional function, but we're in a different context. So what we had reasonably expected in revenue won't be there. And so the journey from where we are now to a surplus budget is obviously a different one than one that was predicted at the time of the last budget or at the time of my EFO. It does put on us a real discipline about ensuring new spends are matched with saves. That is a very tough discipline, let me assure you, as we work our way through the budget and we have ministers who have good ideas and good plans and have to actually jettison some of the things that they currently do in their portfolio area or that are done across government in order to back in those new spending plans. But that's the discipline that we intend to accept for this budget. What, of course, we won't do is we won't artificially chase these revenue downgrades in a way that jeopardises jobs and growth.
We've got microphones coming, so if you could just hold on, we'll make sure everybody can hear.
I just had a question about productivity. That was a big word in the 2007 election. How are you trying to boost productivity in the coming budget, balancing that with the cuts that you're planning to make?
Well, that's a very good question, and there have been some emerging good signs on productivity growth. Now, necessarily, this is a statistic you want to see for the long term, so you don't want to make too much of some of the most recent evidence. You want to see the trend continuing. But there has been recently some good news on productivity growth, and the elements that go into productivity growth are ones we are very committed to and will continue to be committed to. It includes our agenda for human capital, what we're doing in schools particularly, what we're doing in early childhood education, more apprenticeships than ever before, and our continued historically high investments in universities. It includes what we're doing with traditional infrastructure, the investments we've made in roads and